So hey friends, we're gonna go to our sounding out and we're really thinking about I magic E this week. And I says I, like he wants to shout it real loud. My name is I. He says his own name. That's long I. Okay? So we're gonna be on the lookout for that. Let's go through all our sounds. T says tough. S says S, and you are doing this too. Someone around you could hear you, and I hope they do. B says buff. P says puff. M says F says D says duh. C says cuff. W says wah. J says j. H says ha. Y says ya. Z says z. V says v. R says r. N says n. Q U says qua. C H says ch. W H says w. G says g. I magic E says I. There it is. Magic E is making the I say I. Loud and proud. My name is I. Not I. That's a short I. Remember, if there's no magic E, I. With a magic E, I. Oh, magic E says oh. Same thing happens. He gets loud and proud. My name is O. A magic E says A. Same thing. He gets loud and proud. My name is A. Now short. You learned this over a year ago in kindergarten. I says I. E says eh. I says A. You learned this in first grade. A does the talking. I does the walking. And A says A. Just the same way it does with that A magic E. But short A, you learned it a way long time ago. A says ah. U says oh my belly. Learned that a long time ago. O says long time ago. But O, A, you learned in first grade. O does the talking. A does the walking. O, A says oh. Just like that O magic E. N says N. L says L. K says Ka. LL says L. S says S. TH says SH says sh. T says ta. P says pa. CK says ka. D says da. X says x. M says B says ba. G says ga. Magic E says nothing at all. All right, let's get ready. We're going to sound them out. And even though I don't have my magic E wand, we're still going to do this, okay? So, something I noticed when you were reading your little phonics reader to me, that a lot of friends were having trouble with a certain word. Here's that word that I noticed. A lot of trouble trying to figure out this one. Let's see how it goes for us today. Huh? He's loud and proud. Hike. And maybe some friends were having trouble because they're not exactly sure what it means to go on a hike. When you go on a hike, you just go for a walk. Sometimes you carry a stick to help you walk along. So hike is one we were really having some trouble with. So then I got to thinking, well, maybe if they thought it over, how they knew for sure that this one is, boom, lightning word, like. If they knew that, they could go, oh yeah, I know like. That means I can figure out hike. And if I can figure out like and hike, I can figure out Ike, tyke, Ike, psych, Ike, bike. Now, we're writing stories this week, and I was writing a story about a time that I rode my bike. And you guys got to see the beginning of my story yesterday. And when I was sounding it out, I made sure I went, I locked it in my brain that I heard, I say his own name, bike. So when I wrote the word, I put a magic E at the end. So when we are writing our magic E words, we need to write it. Okay, it should be there. So if you're writing a story this week and you're writing about a bike, I hope you have the magic E at the end of your word bike too. Ike. That's a certain kind of fish. Ike. And that's a person's name. Ike. Nothing. Ike. Nothing. Ike. Nothing. Ike. Nothing. Let's change and put an L in there and see how it makes a difference. Aisle. No. Tile. Yes, a lot of us have tile on the floor in the kitchen or in the bathroom. It's hard. And at school, we have tile on the floor under our desks. It's just a hard kind of floor. Aisle. No. Aisle. No. Aisle. Yes. Aisle. Yes. Aisle. Yes. Aisle. Yes. Aisle. No. Aisle. Can you wait a while? Wait a while. But when we want to spell while, let me just show you a little something there. When we really see that one in a book, looks like that, okay? Tricky thing about that is WH sounds the same as W all alone. So sometimes we just have to figure out and learn and memorize or ask an adult or a grown-up how we actually spell that one or look in our dictionary, okay? WH is how we would spell that one. Aisle, no. Aisle, no. All right, so remember when we're doing these, that I with a magic E really gets kind of loud and proud. He says his own name really loud and really proud. I have a story for you today called My Adventures with Fluffy. And we're going to use this book and we're going to do compare and contrast. Compare and contrast is when we see what is alike and what is very different in a book or between two books. So it can be in one book or between two different books. And we see what's alike and what is different. And we do this to help us remember, understand. You guys know that. We always do these things to help us remember, understand. So let's check out our story. My Adventures with Fluffy by David Campos. We have a contents page. My adventure begins the ocean, mountains, forests, the desert, back home, common landforms, and a glossary. So we are reading a nonfiction book to do this today. The adventure begins. I'm David and this is Fluffy. Last week we went on a trip to Los Angeles, California. Come along with us and we'll show you our favorite places. The ocean. The first place we visited was the ocean. An ocean is a large body of salt water. At the ocean, Fluffy and I had fun in the sun. We breathed in the fresh air and splashed in the waves. We liked playing on the beach. Fluffy and I had a great time building sandcastles. Did you know the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean in the world? It covers about 1/3 of our Earth. Mountains. Next, we went to the mountains. A mountain is a very high piece of land. Fluffy and I hiked to the top of a mountain. The air up there was crisp and cool. What a sight. We also visited Mount Baldy. During the winter, it is covered with snow. Fluffy and I love to play in the snow. Did you know Mount Baldy got its name because wind and avalanches have destroyed all the trees and plants at the top, making it look like a bald head. Forests. Now we're going to pay extra close attention to the part about forests, and you'll see why in a little bit. Fluffy and I also went to Angeles National Forest. A forest is an area of land covered with many trees. Fluffy and I ran along the paths in the forest. Once we entered the forest, I felt like I was far from the city. So I want you to see and notice and look what the forest is like. All these, and what are all those also? Next, we went to Sequoia National Park. The sequoia trees there are the largest trees in the world. Did you know the General Sherman sequoia tree is about as tall as 21 elephants? If you put 21 elephants on top of each other, this type of tree would be that high up. Whoa, that's huge. Now pay extra close attention to this part too about the desert. We are going to compare the forest to the desert. So let's see what it says. After we left the forest, I took Fluffy to the desert. A desert is a hot, dry area that does not get much rain. Fluffy and I looked for cactus and animals while we were in the desert. Oh, remember the word while? Oh, see, when we see it in a book, it goes WHILE. Our favorite desert is Joshua Tree National Park. Spring is the best time to go there because the air is cool. Did you know Joshua trees only grow in 4 states? California, Arizona, Utah, and Nevada. Back home. Fluffy and I love adventures, and we had a great time, but sometimes we just like to relax at home. Common landforms. Landforms means different types of areas. We have a forest, mountains, desert, and the ocean. And that's what we read about in our book today. And then we have a glossary. Desert, a hot, dry area that does not get much rain. A forest is an area of land covered with many trees. A mountain is a very high piece of land, and an ocean is a large body of salty water. We're going to go back to the forest, okay, and think about what we read about the forest. We're also going to come over here and take a look at what we call a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram, on the side where there's green, I wrote forest. We're going to think about things that we learned in the book that we know are true only about a forest. So it said Fluffy and I also went to Angeles National Forest. A forest is an area of land covered with many trees. So what we're going to say is that in the forest, there are many trees. Now we know it did not say that about the desert, okay? The desert looked different. It didn't have many trees. It says Fluffy and I ran along the paths in the forest. And once we entered the forest, I felt like I was far from the city. Did you notice what else is flying around there? Okay. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to write anything about those yet because we'll have to see if those are in the desert too. Next, we went to Sequoia National Park. The sequoia trees there are the largest trees in the world. Did you know the General Sherman sequoia tree is about as tall as 21 elephants? Now, the trees in the forest can be not just that there's so many of them, they can be very tall trees. Okay, let's see if there's anything else that we think we should write about the forest. No, not too much. Let's head over to this part about the desert. It says, after we left the forest, I took Fluffy to the desert. The desert is a hot, dry area of land. It's hot and dry there. In the forest, it did not say that. It only said that in the desert. So this is a hot and dry area. It does not get much rain, so that's why it's hot and dry there. Fluffy and I looked for cactus and animals while we were in the desert. You know, there's cactus trees in the desert, but it did not say that there was cactus trees in the forest. So in the desert, there are cactus. And those are those big plants that are like trees that if you touch it, it really hurts. They poke you. All right, look around. Do you see those things flying around in this one? Oh, keep that in your brain. Now let's see. I see trees, other trees, but not very many of them. Our favorite desert is Joshua Tree National Park. Spring is the best time to go there because the air is cool. Do you notice anything flying around in the desert? All right, so what we're going to do is think about both now. We figured out that the forest had many trees and very tall trees, and that the desert had hot and dry area, and the kind of tree that's there is called a cactus. Now in both, they both have trees, just that the trees were different. In the desert, they were cactus. In the forest, there was way more of them and very tall ones. And let's see, both had land. It was land. It was not water. If we were comparing an ocean to a lake, we could say that they are both water. But a desert and a forest, they both have land. Now in both the desert and the forest, did you see what was flying around? In both places, there were birds. All right, so what we did, friends, was figure out when we were reading what we learned that was only about the forest, what we learned and found out that was only about the desert, and then in the middle, where our circles come together, what we found out about both. That in both places there are trees. In both places it is land, and both places had birds. And we do this to help us remember and understand, right? All right, do you have a seesaw activity to do today for I, Magic E? Remember, I says I. Strong, loud, and proud. Says his own name.